Bonjour à vous. Alors une petite vidéo aujourd'hui. Bon, c'est pas complètement une surprise. J'avais déjà commencé à amorcer le bilan. Il s'avère que Trump est une baudruche, hein. Il n'a pas fait illusion bien longtemps. On a vu que les généraux qu'il avait choisis au départ, qui étaient euh, opposé à cette inversion accusatoire de guerre au terrorisme comme Flynn.
Your agency was saying, quote, the Salafists, the Muslim Brotherhood, and Al Qaeda in Iraq are the major forces driving the insurgency in Syria. In 2012, the US was helping coordinate arms transfers to those same groups. Why did you not stop that?
It was a decision. I think it was a willful decision.
A willful decision to go support an insurgency that had Salafists, Al Qaeda, and the
a
Muslim
willful
Brotherhood.
decision to do what they're doing, which you have to really ask the president, what is it that he actually is doing?
That was General Michael Flynn several months ago on Al Jazeera talking about the fact that President Obama gave them orders to basically build up ISIS and Al-Qaeda.
Ont très vite été dégagés c'est-à-dire qu'il a, le Trump c'est une baltringue, hein. Il suffit que des démocrates accusent dans le vent médiatiquement, sans véritable fondement, des gens pour que ils soient dégagés. Donc on a bien vu que ça commençait déjà à s'effriter dès le départ dans l'équipe de Trump, et là le pilier de la politique de réorientation américaine au niveau étranger, notamment Bannon, vient de se faire virer. Donc finalement, le Trump était un soufflé qui va très vite poursuivre la politique finalement d'Obama. Il n'y aura pas de différence. Il suffit, de toute façon... qu'est-ce que vous voulez? Le Trump, j'ai expliqué, hein, il est fortement imbriqué dans la mouvance sioniste. Il a ses enfants tous mariés à des juifs sionistes. Et d'ailleurs là, il a été trahi par Kushner, qui le beau-fils de Trump, qui est marié avec sa fille Ivanka. Il a fait des fuites d'informations pour une chaîne qui ne cesse de critiquer Trump. Donc on est vraiment dans une ambiance foireuse dans l'équipe de Trump, qui visiblement avait très mal préparé son équipe, n'a pas tenu très longtemps et s'est très vite plié, si vous voulez, au rouleau compresseur médiatique et aux mensonges des administrations corrompues. Donc Bannon, qui était quand même idéologiquement le pilier de la campagne électorale de Trump, qui vient de partir, ça c'est un point extrêmement négatif. Flynn qui est parti, finalement tout s'effondre, et puis on voit des minables, hein, comme Nikki Haley, qui sont des soumises au système complet, qui reprennent la propagande de Colin Powell, typiquement américaine, du pathos, c'est-à-dire de l'émotionnel avec des photos. Évidemment, cette attaque en Syrie est affreuse, mais on sait très bien, comme par le passé, que les attaques chimiques sont souvent perpétrées par la mouvance atlanto-sioniste pour émouvoir les gens et puis continuer leur contamination et leur progression, si vous voulez. Il n'a jamais été prouvé que les attaques chimiques du départ étaient le fait d'Assad, mais par contre, il a tout laissé à croire que ça venait du camp inverse. Et puis, donc, bah voilà, Trump est finalement une baltringue qui a vite baissé la tête et qui s'est vite laissé démonter pour rejoindre ce qui se faisait avant. Bon, là, on pouvait avoir, si vous voulez, de grandes attentes vis-à-vis de l'administration de Trump, mais force est de constater que tout s'effrite très vite, et que Trump finalement va suivre ce qui se faisait avant, quoi, hein. Il est en train de baisser les bras et de se laisser totalement manipuler. Alors Une chaîne d'information qui est Infowars avec Alex Jones, qui est proche hein, de Trump, continue d'expliquer que l'attaque en Syrie, l'attaque chimique, est une attaque sous faux drapeau. Donc on ne peut pas dire que Trump n'est pas au courant du fait de cette manipulation. Alors il faut le dire, Trump avait envoyé une personne sur place pour négocier avec Bachar al-Assad, et cette attaque chimique survient juste après. Hein, c'est-à-dire que Trump avait donné son numéro personnel à Assad et comptait l'appeler. Hein. Là, c'était, je vais vous montrer l'article qui concerne ce sujet. On le retrouve sur un site qui est pas mal fait, qui est le réseau international. Alors. Non, parce que c'est quand même important ce qui s'est passé. C'est-à-dire l'éviction de Bannon, qui était vraiment idéologiquement le pilier de reprise identitaire, morale un peu, et notamment au niveau de la politique étrangère, c'est un coup dur hein, pour l'administration Trump, qui se couche finalement à la mauvaise influence de la famille Kouchner. Hein, c'est-à-dire le type qui vit avec Ivanka, quoi. Et alors, c'est problématique, pourquoi? Parce que qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Il va y avoir une rupture probablement entre c'est-à-dire que le Ron Paul, qui est un gouverneur enfin un politicien texan réputé et respecté, avait expliqué qu'il suffirait d'une attaque sous faux drapeau pour faire plier l'administration Trump et la réaligner dans la mauvaise direction. Et il n'avait pas tort. Hein. J'essaierai de retrouver la vidéo où Ron Paul explique qu'il suffisait d'une attaque sous faux drapeau pour que la chose s'inverse. Hein. Malheureusement, on voit que Trump n'est pas costaud. Hein. Voilà, c'est comme ça. Donc, il y a une Tulsi Gabbard, hein, qui est une démocrate de Hawaï qui était hostile à Hillary Clinton. Et qui avait déclaré en 2015 sur CNN que les États-Unis et l'Union européenne devaient cesser une guerre illégale et contre-productive visant à renverser le gouvernement de Assad, et plutôt à se concentrer à combattre les groupes extrémistes. Et donc, Trump avait dépêché Tulsi Gabbard pour négocier là récemment avec Bachar al-Assad. Et il faut comprendre que l'attentat, l'arme chimique intervient dans la rupture de ces négociations. C'est pour ça qu'il y a de forts soupçons du fait que soit le camp atlantiste, ils essayent une énième fois de renverser le jeu, si vous voulez. Et malheureusement, il semble que Trump, cette fois-ci, est plié à cette manipulation. Et donc, bon, il y a des gens qui continuent à faire vivre la véritable information comme Infowars. Probablement en France, on a des sites comme Égalité et Réconciliation. Là, j'ai donné une interview, donc Thierry Messant nous a donné une interview et on a posé la question, justement, le site Né Réconstant a posé la question sur le... Moi, j'avais expliqué, j'avais un point de vue pessimiste sur la réorientation de la politique étrangère de Donald Trump. Thierry Messant semblait être plutôt... séduit par la réorientation de la politique étrangère de Trump. Force est de constater qu'avec l'éviction de Flynn, de Bannon, tous ces frites, avec la mauvaise influence de la famille Kouchner, donc juif sioniste, tout est en train de partir en vrille, et que là, Trump, finalement, il n'aura pas fait illusion longtemps. Hein, voilà, c'est mon point de vue. Alors, sauf... Parce qu'il ne faut pas être non plus complètement croire que c'est complètement terminé au niveau de la politique étrangère et de l'honnêteté, la réorientation du côté de l'honnêteté et de la morale, sauf si effectivement, coup de tonnerre, on apprend que cette attaque chimique, de manière indubitable, est imputée aux factions terroristes. Hein, ou atlantocionistes derrière les casques blancs, par exemple, hein, ou ce genre de choses, ils ont déjà fait. Hein, Donc, sauf coup de tonnerre, l'administration Trump ne fera pas mieux que les autres administrations, ou pas beaucoup mieux, et n'aura fait illusion que peu de temps, finalement. Voilà. Oui, en conclusion, on peut ajouter que ça aura des conséquences importantes pour la France, parce que bon, c'est une hypothèse. Imaginez que Marine Le Pen arrive au pouvoir. Elle ne pourra pas s'allier avec Donald Trump, qui sera en totale contradiction avec sa politique étrangère. C'est-à-dire que Marine Le Pen ne fait pas partie des gens qui tombent dans le piège de la désinformation médiatique, de la propagande de la guerre au terrorisme inversée, si vous voulez. Ce qui veut dire qu'elle aura plus une propension à serrer la main de Poutine que Trump. Finalement, sur cette question de politique étrangère. Si Trump se plie à ce qui se faisait sous Bush et Obama, il est évident que le Front National va se retrouver... Parce que le Front National comptait sur une alliance avec Trump pour donner un peu de puissance au mouvement. Le problème, c'est que là, si Trump baisse les bras et se réinscrit dans ce qui se faisait avant, le Front National ne pourra plus être aussi proche de Trump qu'il l'espérait. Voilà, donc bon, c'est une réalité. Voilà.
Yesterday, there was some bombing with possibly gas exposure in Syria, and things have changed. It reminds me sort of weather reports. Well, if you don't like the weather, just wait an hour, you'll get different weather. Well, that's sort of what happens in the Middle East sometimes. That just wait, it'll change. Yeah. And actually, before this episode of possible gas exposure and who did what, things were going along reasonably well for the conditions. Trump says let the Syrians decide who should run their country, and peace talks were breaking out, and Al Qaeda and ISIS were on the run, maybe defeated. So it was like, in spite of their problems with this foreign policy, it looked like there was some benefit, but it looks like maybe somebody didn't like that, so there had to be an episode. And the blame now is that we can't let that happen because it looks like it might benefit Assad. So Assad, they claim, now went and released gas to kill a bunch of people. But, Daniel, we might not have much of a job here today because I looked at the New York Times to find out, to get the explanation, and they said, worst chemical attack in years in Syria. U.S. blames Assad. So it's all over and done with. But not quite so easy, is it? What happened 4 years ago in 2013, this whole thing about crossing the red line, and ever since then, the neocons have been yelling and screaming. Even part of the administration is still yelling and screaming about Assad using poison gases on his people 4 years ago. Not quite true.
Yeah, it was never proven, in fact. And the UN official Carla Del Ponte said that attack was most likely done by the rebels based on the evidence. But here you have Nikki Haley, U.S. ambassador to the UN, almost as we speak, literally, at the UN Security Council saying, quote, "We know Assad has used chemical weapons before." It's not true. It has never been proven that he has. He may have. We do know that the rebels have used them. That has been proven.
And who would benefit? It makes no sense, even if you were totally separate from this and take no sides of this, and you were just an analyst. It doesn't make any sense for Assad under these conditions to all of a sudden use poison gases. It's zero. I think it's zero chance that he would have done this, deliberately, and he's doing this now. But we could also go to a famous senator who's an expert on foreign policy, and we could go ask John McCain to explain it, and he found somebody to blame. And I don't know what he has it in for the president. We criticize our president once in a while, and we try to be, balanced and criticize the things we think he's doing that we don't like. But McCain says blame Trump. It's all Trump's fault because he hasn't been aggressive enough. He's backing off. He wants to have negotiations when you have to get rid of Assad. So he's backing prior to 2011 when the neocons, which are in cahoots with a few allies like Saudi Arabia and Israel, the Sunnis, and the Iranians, they're all, in cahoots together. So therefore they have to be destroyed.
Now, the Syrian attack, sarin gas is alleged what was used. You've seen pictures, you've seen video, you've seen everything. And now here's the interesting timing with this, Leanne.
Right. Again, again, another attack.
Bannon gets ousted. Now Trump has a speech today, and he's seemingly changed his tune entirely on Assad, not 12 hours even after Bannon is ousted from the team, the Security Council. And now all of a sudden you see news stories everywhere where it appears that they are changing their tone, the Trump administration, on Syria. But I want to rewind the clocks back a little bit here, because what we actually wanted to talk about today was not as much political, Leanne, but actually what happened in Syria. Was this a chemical attack, and who perpetrated it?
Right. And what's weird about it, and why doesn't it, why shouldn't we just run in there, guns a-blazing?
Yes.
Like we fought against in 2013 when the Obama administration tried to use that sarin gas attack. And even before any investigators went in to find out what was really going on, they just immediately said, it was Assad, it was his people, we need to go in there and take him out. And that's the exact same thing that's happened here again. And so you can look there with some of the video. The people go in with a sarin gas attack. They have no gloves on. They have no masks. They have no protective clothing.
Well, hold on a second. You're getting ahead of us here.
Okay.
I want to rewind the clocks back a second here. Okay. Let's rewind the clocks back. This is a story from the Wall Street Journal, excuse me, from June 23rd, 2014. Headline: Removal of chemical weapons from Syria is completed. Chemical weapons will be destroyed aboard a U.S. ship. Now you go into this story and you read on. All the dangerous substances from Syria's chemical weapons program, including sulfur, mustard, and precursors of sarin, what was allegedly used, have now been removed from the country after a months-long process, a Hague-based watchdog agency said Monday. Okay, so now hold on. So, do you take this story for truth? And do you say Assad's regime in Syria no longer has the chemicals to make sarin gas weapons? Okay, so if that's the case, then all of the stories and the narratives being pushed today that it was the Assad regime, I mean, what are you saying? Are you saying that this story was a lie? Are you saying that that's not possible because they didn't have the sarin gas? Or are you saying that the Obama administration actually let, I guess, everyone down here by allowing the Assad regime to actually have sarin gas weapons, even though they said they didn't? Right. What is the answer?
Well, let's not forget that this was after Obama made his red line and then didn't actually act on the red line. So they had to have a win. So their big win was that they were able to go in there, work with Assad. He destroyed. And Assad said, look, I don't even need these weapons. I didn't use any of these chemical weapons. Take them all. The only reason why they're sitting on them is because they're very hard to destroy without causing a huge mess. So that was kind of a win for the Obama administration that they were able to get in there and take care of these chemical weapons. So you think, okay, well, that's the end of that. Good for you. Well, then now here, once again, without any evidence, it's just immediately it's Assad's regime where you have the Syrian people saying, no, again, it's the rebels.
What's amazing to me about Syria, what they're trying to do is they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. Like you just said, the Obama administration praised the fact that they were able to remove these chemicals from the Assad regime so they couldn't make sarin gas weapons. Then they try to blame the Assad regime for multiple sarin gas attacks. This isn't the first one. We've got a report that will air later that you actually shot a while ago. But keep in mind as well, what else is being done here is the Assad regime is standing in the way of central bankers taking over the Middle East. That's what is behind the curtain here. The Assad regime stands in the way of that. Putin stands in the way of that, and they consider themselves to be allies. So what have the powers that be in the West tried to do? John McCain meeting with quote unquote moderate rebels in Syria to try to overthrow the Rashad regime. So they try to paint Assad. And by the way, let's actually roll the Ben Swann video as B-roll here, guys, in the background. This is a video that Ben Swann shot last December. Proof moderate rebels in Syria are really jihadist. So what does the West try to do here to get their goals accomplished? They try to paint Assad as a bad leader who's chemical gassing his own people. Then they try to say that these quote-unquote moderate rebels in Syria are the ones that are fighting back against the corrupt Assad regime. Then McCain comes out and says, I'm meeting with these people. He brags about how he meets with these terrorists, and he says, these are the people that are going to help us remove Assad from power. Okay, so now let's come back to today with all of that history painted behind us. Chemical attacks in Syria. Do they have the ability? Do they not? I don't know. We were told they didn't. McCain has been working with moderate rebels, quote unquote, in Syria. Obama tried to fund and arm these people and successfully did. Now today, Trump his administration has said, we're not going to interfere with the Assad regime. That's not one of our priorities. Now today, O'Bannon ousted. Trump administration takes a different stance, blaming Trump. Leanne, what is your first reaction, given the history, the background, and everything you've seen today? To what's happened? Is this sarin attack in Syria a false flag? Did it really happen? Who's to blame?
I think it's false flag because also let's not forget that Assad, his regime was supposed to meet there at the UN. They're supposed to have kind of peace talks, the UNSC, this upcoming week. So why would he do a sarin gas attack against his people? All it's going to do is empower the people who want to take him out. So why would he do that? And this is the exact same thing that happened in 2013. It was just very weird timing. It was right before they were supposed to go before the UN. And so the UN could possibly decide in their favor saying, you know, you're sovereign. We don't need to go in and take you out. We need to respect that you're their leader. Why would he gas? It just doesn't make sense. The people who would actually benefit from a gas attack, just as in 2013, are the terrorist groups that are there that are trying to oust Assad, that the U.S., as we've reported many times before, is allowing to go in there and hold the Syrian people as hostages because they're letting these terrorist groups do the dirty work of the U.S. to oust Assad. So they're helping to back these groups because they want him out as well. It's like their proxy army. So that's the thing. It's like it doesn't even make sense. But for whatever reason, they think the American people are so stupid that we are not going to recognize that we are living in Groundhog's Day. And it's the same story again and again and again.
Well, and the big thing for me is when trying to identify a false flag is timing. The timing of this is way too perfect. I mean, it's just perfect.
Right.
And here's another example. Let's go to this video. This is John McCain yesterday. Again, the timing, folks. And John McCain, he's one of the people involved in this. He's one of the people on the ground talking to these moderate rebels. He's one of the people also on the ground in America trying to resist Trump. McCain needs to be outed, folks, please. And people in Arizona, please do not vote for this man ever again. Term limits. John McCain is possibly the greatest example of why we need him. But this is John McCain yesterday, before the sarin attacks, talking about the Trump administration approach to Assad. Go ahead and roll that clip.
Seen this movie before. It was when
seen the movie
Barack
before,
Obama
like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, we sure have.
They would have a red line, they crossed it, and he did nothing. So I'm sure they're encouraged to know that the United States is withdrawing and seeking some kind of new arrangement with the Russians, and it is another disgraceful chapter in American history.
So, Senator, what do you want to see President Trump do?
I want him to hear him say, we're going to arm the Free Syrian Army. We are going to
Assad rebels.
dedicate ourselves to the removal of Bashar
You've already
Assad.
been arming them.
Removal of Assad.
The Russians pay a price for their engagement. Pay
a price to the Russians.
Are also heavily involved. All players here are going to have to pay a penalty, and the United States of America is going to be on the side of people who fight for freedom, and we will not sit by and watch chemical weapons being used to slaughter innocent.
Well, then why do you keep giving them to these CIA-funded rebel groups? The fingerprints are always leading back to these CIA-funded rebel groups.
And again, look at the timing. He talks about chemical attacks. He talks about the Trump administration needing to change their stance on Assad and Russia. He talks about the removal of Assad. And look at all the media today, folks. Trump administration changes their stance. Assad regime guilty of chemical attacks. And what do you know? John McCain just happened to be at the foot of it. Shocking.
Well, what I don't see again here's some video, what people are seeing. And I'm not saying that this, didn't take place, but what I'm saying
Let's fast forward to this story, guys. This is the one, Al-Masdar News. Go ahead, Leanne.
That we need to kind of watch, because if you're dealing with a sarin gas attack, you're not going to go in there with no gloves on, no chemical wear, protective wear, not even a mask or anything. You could be susceptible to the nerve gas. Like what? Come on.
So here's a story that kind of highlights exactly what you're talking about. And again, these are the moderate rebel white hat folks.
Oh,
these are the white hats. These people have been exposed.
The Oscar.
The white hats have been exposed, folks. They work with Al-Qaeda. This is not a conspiracy theory. Yes. Al-Qaeda related group won an Oscar. No, go back to these pictures, folks. So you go down and you can look at some of these pictures and a couple of tweets. How about this? There's other pictures below that. But look at this tweet. This Dr. Shahjul Islam, if you buy this could be, I mean, this could be totally fake. Okay, but I'm just saying, this guy claims he's a doctor in Syria and that he's attending to all these patients that are flooding in. But somehow he has time to tweet. Somehow he has time to record footage.
And then anybody that wants evidence, I'll send you the video.
Yeah,
I've got so much time in my hand.
Amazing how that works.
Triage all these patients.
Keep going down. Now you can see some of the pictures that Leanne is talking about. It just kind of, it just looks a little weird. People not everybody has gas masks on.
Well,
people
yeah,
are
and
kind of
someone
just
points out,
standing
like,
around.
where is this hose coming from? Just out of the wall there. So it's kind of
white hats
dug out of the rock there. So they're pointing out that carved in the mountainside, this is where a particular group hangs out and lives and is able to protect themselves. So even giving more reason to why people think that this is totally a setup video.
You know what? And let's go ahead and roll these videos now, guys. Let's roll these videos now. Let's roll the Aleppo boy video. We'll just roll that as B-roll, and me and Leanne will talk over it. Let's go to the Aleppo boy video. Now, this is a video that everyone remembers. Here he is. And look at this, folks. This is how they're set it up.
They're setting up the shot. And everyone remembers this iconic photo where he's there sitting sadly.
Oh, it made every news. This is why I pulled this clip, because it highlights how they set it up, how this kid's actions don't merit somebody that looks like they've just been bombed.
He sits in an empty, pristine, modern ambulance.
Now watch this. He's touching allegedly an open wound and not seeming to care.
Like, oh, what is this stuff?
Yeah, oh, I have an open wound from an explosion, but it doesn't seem to hurt me much. And then boom, every news agency.
Yeah, 400 newspapers, the exact same story. Assad and Russia kill children. They have to be stopped.
So there's one example of how this stuff works. Yeah, there's CNN. They're going to run with it all day. MSNBC. There's one example.
Hey, man, that one made me cry, too. That was a sad photo. That was a...
Of course. And who knows if, I think that's Kate Boldan, I think is her name on CNN.
Yeah, and it's a still picture only.
And who knows if she even knows what's going on.
Even though there's video of the boy, they only use that still.
She
didn't use the video footage on her television show that likes B-roll.
Oh, yeah, there it is again.
Photo.
There they put that.
Move the boy's body.
So here's just another example of this. Now, we've actually got another example once this video comes to a close. Okay. Now let's go to the fake car bomb attack.
And this one is like, you can't even...
We'll talk over this one, too. Go ahead and roll this one, guys.
This was in Iraq in what year? I don't see it here. This was last year?
I'm not sure. I think it was 2016, but I really am not sure.
So here the guy, he goes, he puts the...
Thank you. 2016, yes.
So he puts the bomb in the car, gets in the drive-away vehicle and
gets away.
Heads off.
Yeah.
Gets out of range. And then...
All right, so there's your suspected terrorist. This crowded area, and then watch what happens.
No one's there. Boom.
There goes the car bomb.
Car is explosions.
No one was there. No one was in the area, in the vicinity.
Okay, everyone, now it's time.
And now here we go. All right, everybody move in.
Everyone move in. Oh, we've injured.
He's down. He's down.
Oh, I've been hurt.
And he's hurt. He's down. He's out.
I've been hurt.
Oh, the shrapnel.
Oh, my. Please help us.
And look at this guy. Oh, we need help. Bring in the ambulance.
Please send us weapons so that we can fight.
And wait a second.
This is what they're
Hold up.
Send us weapons so we can fight against Assad.
That looks like the same van that pulled up with the white helmets too, doesn't it? That's the exact same van.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, oh, here. Oh, wait, this doesn't look realistic. Sit over here. You lay there. Okay.
Yeah, wait, we need to get a better picture of this.
And so this is the kind of stuff they can make these
Here,
videos.
run around. Yeah, jump up and down.
Tell the U.S. that we need to send them more weapons so that they can fight against whoever it is that they're, these CIA-backed groups want to get out. This isn't. Exactly. And I got that in my report coming up where we just talk about how this is something, again, with the Groundhog's Day, this is not a new tactic as far as creating war propaganda. It's wag the dog, been around forever. And then just with the invention of television or social media, I mean, because you could see something like this on YouTube, with this kind of grainy footage where you wouldn't see, obviously, the setup for it. You'd just see that particular image of the melee, and you'd think it was real. Because, well, how do they have the ability to create a fake stage with a fake
Yeah, it's impossible.
accident?
It couldn't be.
How could they do it? They're just out in the desert.
Why would CNN run with that story?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that we can't trust and feel, and that's what makes me so angry is that they use us and they use these people and they lie to us so much that our first instinct at this, I mean, for me, isn't even to trust and to cry for these kids. It's to say, wow, what's the setup here? Who wants to take us to war now? It's like, oh, it makes me so angry that that's how much they've lied to us. We can't trust anything or even have compassion for our fellow humans out there.
So let's actually go to Leanne's report.
Following 2 propaganda-fueled days centered around fake photos supposedly proving that Russian troops were inside the Ukraine, the New York Times has issued a retraction. Buried deep on page A9, the newspaper admits the authenticity of the photos has come under scrutiny. The establishment media and the State Department pawned these photos off as evidence, despite the fact the authenticity of the photographs couldn't be independently verified. Freelance photographer Maxim Dondiuk, who worked for a Russian news magazine, told the New York Times he had taken the group photograph in Slavyansk and posted it on his Instagram account. He told the newspaper that nobody asked his permission to use the photograph. And this isn't the first time the war machine media have churned out false evidence in an effort to gear the country up for war. Last year, the BBC appeared to use stunning fakery in an effort to launch a war with Syria. This report was first released on August 29, 2013, just days before an attack on Syria seemed inevitable. The BBC claims it just so happened to be filming at a small hospital when victims of a napalm-style attack poured into that very spot.
Among the medics here was a British doctor visiting for the charity Hand in Hand.
I need a pause because it's just absolute chaos and carnage here. We've had a massive influx of what looks like serious burns. It seems like it must be some sort of, I'm not really sure, maybe napalm, something similar to that.
Exactly 1 month later, Obama and crew were trying to pin the chemical weapons attack on Assad without success. So BBC airs the exact same clip, this time artificially dubbing the doctor's voice to suit the establishment's need for the chemical weapons tagline.
We've had a massive influx of what looked like serious burns. It seems like it must be some sort of chemical weapon. I'm not really sure.
In a subsequent BBC interview, Dr. Rola Halam complained about the UK Parliament's refusal to authorize a military strike on Syria. Interestingly, Halam's father is also on the Syrian National Council, the political body which represents opposition militants. And if this all seems familiar, well, it should. A similar disinfo tactic was used to bolster support for the war with Iraq.
They took the babies out of the incubators. Took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
That was Nurse Naira, whose tearful testimony swung the pendulum in favor of war. After the vote was safely passed, Nayyirah, the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador to Washington, admitted to making the whole story up. Nurse Nayyirah and those faulty claims of weapons of mass destruction weren't the only lies told to convince America a war with Iraq was necessary. CNN also did their part to play up the drama.
CNN's Carl Rochelle is here with me, just came up. Carl, I know we can't be very specific given these restrictions, but within those parameters, what did you see?
Well, what I saw, I didn't see anything hit. I looked almost straight above us. There is a vapor trail coming from my right to my left, and there's a cloud of something. It looks like it might have been an explosion, a cloud. I'd say it was...
Oh, I love this country so much.
These false flag mass media war campaigns are so typical, in fact, there's even a movie about it.
Okay, good. Put the village behind her.
Give me some flames, some sound of screaming.
That's good. We can link that to the press. They can downlink it on Telstar 401 Transporter 21.
And this just in, a Newsbreak special report from the Albanian front. We've just received information that the young Albanian national fleeing in this video is attempting to escape terrorist reprisals in her village.
Even before television was invented, mainstream media was still lined to go to war. In 1895, William Randolph Hearst of the New York Journal sent his employees to cover the Cuban revolt against Spain. Lacking anything newsworthy to report, Hearst told his employee, famed illustrator Frederick Remington, "You furnish the pictures, and I'll furnish the war." The establishment media continues to serve as the propaganda arm of the war machine. It is their job to file dubious reports as part of a campaign to build public consensus for ongoing interventions, from Iraq and Libya to Syria and eventually Ukraine.
Boy, did I almost look stupid.
No, you do look stupid, Charles Jaco. Great report, Leanne. And now that brings us to today. And let's get back into some of these news headlines. This is from Yahoo. Trump, Syria gas attack had a big impact on me. And this is what some people are starting to
What
get
about the
scared
same gas attack that happened in 2013 when he clearly tweeted out to President Obama, stay out of Syria. It's being used as a ploy to go to war. I'm disappointed.
And that's what is making people wonder. They're wondering what is going on behind the scenes. What was truly the motive of the ban and ouster? Was there anything to it? Was it a Kushner move? Was this just a news story propped up to divert from Susan Rice? All possibilities. We don't know. But Trump comes out today, seems to have changed his stance on the Assad regime and Syria. And when he was meeting with the Jordanian king today and giving his press conference, he was very outspoken about how upset he was with the Assad regime and how he thinks that these sarin gas attacks are a responsibility of the Assad regime. So, you know, this is something that people are very upset about. Some people look at this as a false flag. They don't like Trump's approach. Some people look at this as neocons steering war. They don't like Trump's approach. They think he's being infiltrated.
There is obviously neocon steering war when you listen to John McCain and he's right there and telling Trump what he wants him to do, which is drumbeat of war. He's always there, you know, with his drumsticks. And a lot of people can see I really feel this ouster of Bannon is a very bad sign. I think if he, you know, takes the power away from Bannon and puts it into some of these other people who are clearly aligned with these more establishment players, I don't think that's going to be a good sign. And I think that President Trump's going to be making a really big mistake if he backtracks on the campaign promises.
Well, I'm still keeping all options on the table. Some people already think that they know what the deal is with the Bannon ouster, but I'm still not sure about it. And
You know,
to me, it kind of poses an interesting thing because Bannon is claiming that he wanted McMaster's to fill his position.
That he didn't want to be there. He only showed up once.
Yeah, so that's that's what they're going to push, obviously. Like, this is no big deal. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But at the same time, you cannot deny, even if that is true, you cannot deny the 180 turn that the Trump administration has seemingly took towards the Assad regime.
Right.
And how the U.S. government is saying, yes, they did it. They are guilty of the sarin attacks.
Let's get some independent investigators in there. Let's actually find out before we just take the word of people who have an agenda. That say, well, he definitely did it, even though, as we...
Well, and the strange thing, again, about it to me is, you know, Trump has been very outspoken about ISIS. I mean, he talks about needing to destroy ISIS, wipe them off the face of the earth. I'm wondering why he doesn't, does ISIS come to his head when he's sitting and discussing these intelligence meetings with people and they say, Mr. President, there's just been a sarin gas attack in Syria. Does he say, well, it must have been ISIS. Maybe it was terrorists.
Right.
You know, because people like John McCain are going to prop these people up as moderate rebels who want to remove the Assad regime from power. See, but this is how you know it's not true.
Yeah.
Why would John McCain, think about this, folks. Why would John McCain, former member of the Army, I forget what his exact role was, why would John McCain, now a representative of the U.S. government, want to use moderate Syrian rebels to remove Assad from power? Why wouldn't he use the United States Army? Why wouldn't he use the UN? Why wouldn't he use these official structures to remove the Assad regime? You know why? Because they can't tell you the truth about why they want to remove the Assad regime, folks. That's why. John McCain cannot have an official government apparatus come in to remove the Assad regime because then he would have to tell everybody involved what the true agenda is, and he can't do it. So he uses these little terrorists, moderate rebels on the ground as his own little proxy army, of course, manipulated with the other neocon powers that be, to keep the wars going, to keep whatever narratives they want going. Right. Yes, bomb the people in Syria, we'll blame Assad. Beautiful, bomb the people in Iraq, we'll blame Saddam. Perfect, we'll say he was killing kids. And it goes on and on and on. And this is why a lot of people, they don't like the fact Trump is coming out against Assad because they think this was a false flag, at least in the stance that the moderate rebels are not moderate rebels. And
that it makes no sense that Assad would do this. It makes absolutely no sense.
And Bannon out, and then foreign policy change. This has people freaked out, Leanne.
Right. Well, and Breitbart is reporting that Bannon was out and out of the council after the ouster of Susan Rice. So that was his thing, was, you know, getting in there so that to take her out. But she's not entirely out. She hasn't testified under oath. The media is rallying around her to protect her. CNN and Andrea Mitchell, these other places, are saying it's preposterous and it's within her scope of power to do that. And it's fine. If there was actually something legitimately there, she should be able to share that with the American people of why there truly was no political motivation behind it. Show us the evidence that it wasn't a political directive that you went.
Well, it was just intermittent. We're just spying on everybody, even though we're not spying on everyone because that's unconstitutional. And the crazy thing about it, as you talk about the Susan Rice thing, if you watch Fox or conservative media versus liberal media, the story is completely different. I mean, literally, it is total parallel universes, totally opposite stories. So somebody's completely wrong. I mean, literally, one side is completely wrong on this issue. And then you look at the same thing again. Here's a story, again, from Yahoo. This is actually a mirror on Yahoo from Reuters. U.S. dismisses Russian assertion rebels to blame for Syria gas attack. So U.S. is coming out saying this is almost certainly Assad. Of course, you know, McCain loves that. And then you've got Russia coming out saying, no, this was not Assad. This was the rebels. This was McCain's rebels.
And this is exactly the same story. I mean, you could probably put some of those words in to a search engine and find the exact same thing from 2013. Russia says, wait, no, it's the rebels. And the U.S. Obama administration said, no, it's not. It was Assad. And then they were fighting. And it wasn't until people got in and they started looking at the trajectory of where these weapons were supposedly fired from. And it was fired from the rebel-held territory. It wasn't fired from where Assad's regime is. So then they started looking at that. They started looking at some of the canisters. And, you know, that's, you get the investigators in who can actually get the evidence. instead of just the people with the agenda who are immediately going to say, oh, look, Assad, he's done it again. Got to get him out.
Let's go.
They tried to, you know, drum us up for war in 2013. And we'll see if Trump is able to rally all of his supporters to get in there and do it this time around. Incredible.
Well, he's got a lot of explaining to do, I think, and I don't even know if he realizes it yet as far as President Trump is concerned. But let's go back. Let's look at the timing of this again. Let's rewind back the clocks a couple days. The Guardian, EU at odds with Trump administration over Assad's role in Syria. This is from Monday. This is prior to the sarin gas attacks. EU reasserts that Bashar Assad has no future in Syria, folks. Again, timing. Timing is my key element when trying to decide if it is a false flag or not. The timing of this has false flag written all over it, Leanne.
Right. And what was the can you pull that article back up where it says it was right on the eve of an aid?
Right on the eve of major aid conference in Brussels aimed at, in part, at boosting peace talks.
Exactly. Right on the eve of a major aid conference in Brussels aimed in part at boosting peace talks. Why would Assad launch these chemical attacks? He would not. The people who have the most to gain from doing that would be these CIA-backed rebel groups.
And let's just explain what they mean by peace talks. Forcing Assad to step down or we will annihilate him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they mean by peace talks.
Right.
That's their
War
peace
is
talks.
peace.
Get out of office, Assad, or we'll kill you.
Right.
There's their peace. That's literally the peace talks.
There will never be peace in your country. The Syrian people will continue to get slaughtered. We'll continue to push the narrative out there that it's your fault. I mean, and they will not even go and talk to the actual Syrian people who are saying, we want you to get out of our country. And it's these rebel groups that are holding us hostage and blocking the exit ways. You know, if Assad is allowing them to leave the country in droves, and then these rebel groups block them in, because then they're not going to have any power if they don't have any hostages to starve and beat and sell as sex slaves.
Now, here's an interesting timing and a comment from Sean Spicer that I wanted to bring up. This is the story from SOTT.net, guys, and I really just wanted to bring this up because it had the quote in here of Spicer. Spicer said, there is not a fundamental option of regime change as there has been in the past. That is Spicer yesterday talking about the Assad regime and when the press was getting after him on regime change. And again, the Trump administration policy is being echoed here by Sean Spicer in that they don't want to have part in the Assad regime change. They want to stay out of that business, unlike John McCain, of course, who hates Trump so much and wants to be all over that business, meeting with his little rebels on the ground. So why is Spicer saying that yesterday? Bannon ousted. Now Trump all of a sudden has a different reaction today. So again, the timing here, you just have to question it.
Yeah, and it's like we've already seen what's happened when you create a power vacuum in the Middle East. We saw that with Saddam Hussein. We saw it with Gaddafi, and now they're going to try and do it again with Assad.
And people are starting to wake up to see it, though.
And it's all these countries where they are. The groups are allowed to kind of live amongst each other peacefully. They have their Christians, they have their religious Islamists with the atheists. Even.
Yeah, the Assad regime is actually, I mean,
everyone can
pretty tolerant compared to some others.
But the countries that aren't, like Saudi Arabia,
he just doesn't want a central bank.
They're fine. They're fine. Gaddafi, Iraq as well. The people are all living amongst each other freely. They're not fighting. You know, you're Christians, we're going to kill you. Those are the countries for whatever reason, but America continues to say that we're going in there to promote democracy when it's like you're taking down the countries that are actually pretty fair and allowing their people to pretty much just live.
You know what? This is actually a joke. You know what? This is actually a complete joke. The Trump administration needs to investigate John McCain immediately. I mean, this is a joke. The Trump, you know what? Here, look at this story. This is how the left responds. This is from Newsweek. Are Trump and Tillerson letting Syria's Assad off the hook? Again, this is written yesterday when the Trump administration wanted nothing to do with the regime change. Amazing how much changes in 24 hours. Now all of a sudden they want regime change. we need to investigate John McCain immediately and his role in everything that's going on in the ground in the Middle East, okay? This is what the Trump administration needs to do. And on the backside of that, you know what? While they're investigating all your ties to Trump, while they're investigating all your ties to Russia, President Trump, why don't you just go ahead and invest John Podesta's ties? Why don't you go ahead and invest Hillary Clinton's ties? And I think the more Trump's administration starts to move away from its original foreign policies, its original talking points, the more people are going to be calling for these investigations to start going down because they're sick and tired of it. And Trump was moving so quick on so many other things. They want some other stuff to start getting moved on too. And the change of stance with the Assad regime right now is not good. Now, Trump did, of course, come out and was harsh on Obama, blaming Obama's administration for a lot of this, and rightfully so. But having said that, if you're going to do that, why not recognize that it was Obama's foreign policy of regime change that was part of the problem?
Right. And then don't make the same exact mistakes that Obama was really trying to make. And now you're going to go and do the exact same thing. Who is advising you? Who's actually advising you? Because
apparently Jared Kushner, which some people think might be the problem with some of this stuff. But that is a developing story that we will continue to keep an eye on.
I'm not gonna sit here and take it anymore.
Talk show host is Alex Jones. He's a conspiracy theorist.
Radio talk show host Alex Jones.
Alex Jones. Jones is the wildly popular conspiracy theorist.
Radio talk show host and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones.
Deeply, I think, racist.
I just got called racist by MSNBC.
I don't want that man to have a gun.
1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms.
The Alex Jones Show. Watch the free stream live at Infowars.com/show.
Hey everyone, Josh Sigurdsson here of World Alternative Media, and Ron Paul continues to tell it like it is. Recently on Russia Today, Ron Paul told Peter Lavelle that regardless of whether or not Donald Trump is non-interventionist, the shadow government will still likely pull him into war via false flag attacks. Check it out.
Here. Also, you have like maybe Saudi Arabia vis-a-vis Syria, Turkey. There's a lot of elements out there that want to push things along because they simply don't know what to expect from Donald Trump.
Yes, and that's right. They may do this. It might not be the president's doing. And sometimes, you know, the false flags and the unintended consequences are beyond the control of even a sincere president that would like that not to happen. So it is true. Those things could happen. But I, quite frankly, think it would be the personal belief of Obama that he probably doesn't want to go out with a roaring war going on and making the world a lot less safe. But I wouldn't argue against it, that impossibility. I think that is very possible. But also the reason why even when Trump is president, there'll be some things out of his control too, and he doesn't like to get pushed around. So if it looks like that we're getting pushed around in the world, his reflexes will be rather quick, and they're not going to be wishy-washy, and so that should concern people as well.
And he went on.
Is that people never want the war, and the peace candidate, in a way, Trump was more peaceful because he wanted to at least talk to Russia. And I think people, the average person, likes that idea. They know it's very costly and they pay all the bills. But what they have to contend with is part of the deep state that controls the media that builds up the war fever. So they just think of how reluctant the American people were about going into the Middle East. But then there was the war drums beating, and they get converted, and they get scared, and that is what's going on right now. You know, Putin becomes the monster. You know, he has nuclear weapons and all this sort of thing. So I think it's part of the media, a major part of the media that participates in the war propaganda. Yeah. But I believe if the people got to talk with each other, they're not going to get together. Do you think the American people, if you have 10,000 American people and 10,000 Russians get together and say, hey, you know, we ought to have a war here. I mean, this peace is for the birds. And, you know, if we have a war, we can build airplanes. It doesn't happen that way. It happens by governments. And then if the government's not acting right, it's the secret government. It's the shadow government. It's the CIA and the false flags and the accidents that happen. And then the people get angry because if you don't get angry at your enemies, then you're unpatriotic. And we all have to be patriotic. But we we can be patriotic and friends too. But unfortunately, and this is why I'm optimistic, is I think the media has been exposed and the government's been exposed. Don't believe the government. I love the fact that 68% of the American people don't trust the government. Probably one of the reasons why Trump won. The military-industrial complex endorses Keynesianism. You know, there's domestic Keynesianism, but there's military Keynesianism. And that's why the weapons are being built. And they build them and throw them away. There's waste. They stop building them. They build aircraft carriers that don't work, and it goes on and on. And if other countries, you know, want to keep building, let them build them. It just takes money away from the mouths of individuals. You know, this whole idea that we can solve all these problems and that our exceptionalism, I think it backfires on us when you go around the world and say, and even if we have good values, my argument has always been that we should exemplify them. We should set a standard. So if we do well and we do better with our free society, maybe other countries would emulate us. Now that's spreading a message, but you can't spread a noble, good, thorough moral message by using force and intimidation and bombs and wars. That doesn't work, and that's what we've resorted to too often.
So if I could summarize everything you just said, answering my question, would that be the Trump doctrine that you would like to see American foreign policy emulate?
Yeah, in a way, sure. If he could become a non-interventionist, you know, that would be great. But the pressures would be too great. I mean, his personality would resist on that. The times that we live in would resist it. The deep state would create a crisis, and I think you even suggested, well, what if something happens even before he's elected? Some crisis is created, and maybe not directly by Obama. You know, then it overrides all those good instincts of the people, because then it's nationalism and then it's a patriotism, protecting the troops, and don't vote. I mean, even Trump, who is less militant than the rest of the presidents so far, he said we have to rebuild the military.
Okay, now, regardless of the president, the same people are always in charge. The global shadow government includes the CFR, the Trilateral Commission, Bilderbergs, CIA, the United Nations, not to mention the central bankers, the ESF, and the list goes on. While the Democrats have been able to transfer a lot of power to the president in order to implement liberal policies that would perpetuate market rigging, the Hegelian dialectic, money manipulation, subsidized monopolies, and so on, this will not change the fact that indeed the shadow government still has a chokehold on any president. As a military-industrial complex created terrorists through years of destabilization of cultures that were far undeveloped due to ideological insanity and immorality, they then armed the terrorist enemies they created and destroyed countries who didn't bend over to the United States and global financial system. This led to millions of dead men, women, and children. Trump will be able to change very little if he is sincere and not a limited hangout as is suspected. He's already backtracking and pushing forward neocon warhawks like John Bolton, Rudy Giuliani, and Mitt Romney for Secretary of State. People who want to nuke and destroy. People who want continued instability with places like Russia and, of course, the Middle East. Ron Paul is absolutely right in what he says. Bang on, as per usual. It's refreshing to see him talk such extreme truth after all those years trying to educate people from his position in Congress. He's a once-in-a-lifetime politician, if you can even call him that. He's more of a fearless fighter for liberty, and that's how he will go down in history. All while these globalist monsters will forever be seen for what they are, even if the media won't allow for such dialogue today. As long as voluntary individuals stand up today, the New World Order will fall tomorrow. Thanks for watching, everyone. Check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated. And if you want to save 10% on your tickets to Anarchapulco in Mexico, type in promo code WHAM. That's WAM. So again, check the links below. Thanks for watching. This is Josh Sierton signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth. Be the change.
We'll be right back.